Hi, this is a short video on how to use the subcontracting function in MRPeasy. I'm going to be breaking this into two parts. For the first, I'm going to do a purchase order to show you how, if you're a make-to-stock business, you would send a part out, have some value-added service done by a third party, and then receive those items back in the new condition. The second part is going to be doing the same function, however, within a manufacturing order as a part of your process to be done to get a completed good that maybe has some other parts that are also involved in the process. So for the first part of this, I'm going to go and set up the scenario here for our business and what we need done. So we have a part. It's a steel tube, 8-inch galvanized steel. However, it's unpainted and we need it painted for part of our process. Now remember, this first part is about make to stock. So I won't be involving a make to order manufacturing order at this process. This is just a sending an item out so that we can add more to our stock of a higher valued item. So the item that we set up initially here for the part, we order from Titan Industries. We've created our base cost here. And what I've done is gone ahead and created a purchase order so that we get some of these in. So our raw material, we now have 40 in, and we have a cost to that. So those are in our inventory. The issue is we need to send these out now to a third party to have them painted and then returned to us. So what I've done is created now our finished good that we want at the end of this process, our steel tube galvanized painted brown. The difference here is that while the first item was a procured item, this is an assembly item. You see, I do not have the procured item checked. When I do that, the BOM becomes available, and what I've done is set up the BOM now to, in this case, only include that my one single item. If this were a situation where I was going to send a bunch of parts out to a third party to maybe assemble them or do some other feature to them, I could include as many parts as I need. But in this case, I'm just going to use this one for an example. So this is our finished good that we want completed at the end of this process. So once we have those set up, the next step is to create our subcontract purchase order. So I do this in the normal process in terms of that I create a new purchase order. And I'm going to go, say, to this vendor. And what I'm going to do is enter my finished good that I'm looking for, because this is what I'm going to get back from the supplier. I'm going to order 10 of these. And this price, this $60 here, is per unit of what it takes for that service to be done to these parts that I'm sending out. So I would process everything else in the normal process. The site it's going to, maybe an expected date, and then I can just save this. Now what happens is MRPeasy, since this is an assembly item, recognizes that this is a subcontracted purchase order. And you'll notice that it has a couple of extra fields down here at the bottom. So we can book our materials because these are the components that are going out. I can list them either from the same site as we booked the finished good, or we can select another one. So we're going to book our materials. We can later see our bookings as we need them. Okay. And I set my order date. The last thing that we need to do is now ship out our components for this order, our raw materials. So I go to the bottom in the middle there and click the shipments button. Give it a date of today. Okay. And identify the items that are going out. Correct. Click save. And then at this point, I can either pick all items if I had numerous items, or I can pick them by line item here. So I'm just identifying how many are going out. All of this looks good. I click save, and now I can go back, and my items have now been picked. I can send out my purchase order at this point, along with the raw materials that are going out. So time passes, and then we wait for our items to be received. So now we'll go back if I'm on the dock receiving the items in, and I'll receive them in like we would normally. In this particular setup, you may have either, if you only have one invoice per purchase order, you would see it listed under arrival date here. In this case, I have multiple invoices, so I'm going to the bottom to recognize my receipt of the goods. Down here, and then I just go ahead and save this. I'm not going to put in an invoice at this point, but I'm showing my items received. Okay. Then back on my item list, I can now see that I have 10 of my finished galvanized paint brown items in stock, and I only have 30 of my unpainted items. So that's how essentially we send out goods, components to be worked on, and then receive them back for stock. Now the second part of this is about, well, what if I need this work done in the middle of a manufacturing order? So in that case, that's where a routing comes in. So in that case, I've created another item, say a pipe extension tool that we're going to be doing internally, but we have the pipe like we had in the previous scenario where we need to send it out and have it painted. So in that case, what you do is you adjust your routing to accommodate the supplier who's going to do the work. In this case, I've created a new item here, a pipe extension, which is the finished good that I'm going to have at the end of the manufacturing order. And I've created a routing down here with my various steps. The first one is I'm assembling this item, but then I'm going to send it out to have it painted. Note the difference here. If I'm using, for the work that's being done internally, I'm using workstations and workstation groups. But if I'm going to send something out, then I'm going to identify the vendor in the next step of the process. And that's what we've done here. So I would start my manufacturing order as I would normally. Okay. And then when you see that the manufacturing orders detail page opens up, there's an extra button here now for creating a purchase order. And if you look further down in the routing, you see down here it's listed not as a workstation, as in the first step, but the second step lists our vendor. And that's how it's a little different. So from here, the process basically works as I stated in the first part. We're going to create our purchase order when it's time to do that. It automatically fills in with all the information we need. We just have to put in an order date, save it, and we wait for the part to come in. Once the goods have arrived, then we'll return back to our purchase order and receive them in. Now let me explain a little bit more about the routing. So our item has this routing that includes, under the setup time, 1440 minutes. That is calculated by taking the number of hours in a workday within this time frame that is placed in the settings. So that's normally 8 hours. And then in this example, we're using that it takes 3 days between our issuance of the purchase order and when the items are received. So this 1440 is calculated by 3 days and 8-hour days turned into minutes. Then under the variable cost, we put in, like we did with our original purchase order, $60 per unit. This is the per unit cost of what it takes to have this item worked on. And so we just make it a part of the routing. Okay. And then we simply would do our production like we would normally. Come down here, we start our project. Maybe we finish that first assembly step. Okay. We book all of our goods. Everything has been consumed, and we can finish production. And there, our work is complete. You can see now we have in our pipes, our extension tools, we now have 2 in stock. And that's how you use the subcontracting function in MRPeasy. My name is Tim Grant. I'm with Business Solution Providers. You can reach us at businesssp.com. Thank you and have a great day.